True. Hello, everybody out there. We are excited to be back with you for another edition of Kick Ass Couples Nation Nooner. Babe, I got one question for you. Are you ready for a nooner?
I'm ready. I'm always ready.
She's always ready, and that's the truth. And one of the things I love about the woman sitting next to me. So, we are having a fun discussion today about what are 3 indicators that you are in a healthy relationship. Sometimes it's hard to know when you're looking at a relationship or when you're in a relationship. We all think it's healthy, but maybe we're not sure. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matthew Hoffman. I am the CIO, the Chief Inspirational Officer of Kick Ass Couples Nation. And my bride is my favorite person, my best friend, Kimberly Swain Hoffman, and she is also the co-host of the Kick-Ass Couples podcast, and she's also the reason behind why I wrote the book Kick-Ass Husband: Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. So she's a star in my eyes, and man, has she grown into her role as a podcast host and as an expert on relationships, and she's got a fantastic point of view. And so we're talking to you as a couple today.
Well, you're very sweet to have me. I am, and to say those things. I'm happy to be here, and it's just so much fun that I get to do this with you.
I love it. It's the best. So 3 indicators that you're in a healthy relationship. We go to doctor's appointments, Kim, we measure our body in weight and body fat, cholesterol, and we do all these things to make sure our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health is good, but we are not always doing the things we need to do or aware of the things that we need to do in order to be healthy in our number one relationship. So why is that?
No, some reason we just forget to maintain the health and put the work into really taking care of our relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we do that. I think we just get complacent and we just kind of get busy with other things. And, it really boils down to a lot of the pillars that we have, right? And making sure that those 14 pillars are in place.
No doubt. So I want to do a little rapid fire with you, Kim. I want to walk through, we can talk about our pillars and what it means. We think there's 14 key relationship qualities that if they're in a relationship and you're demonstrating them and understanding them, then you're in relationship nirvana. And I'm saying that's where Kim and I are after 29 years of marriage. Hasn't always been fantastic, but we have learned how to implement and make sure these things are there. Now, we're not going to go through all 14 today in our brief time together, but let's just do a rapid fire, Kim, and walk through what they are and what it means in the relationship.
Yeah. And I think the first 3 are the ones that we really focus on, especially in our podcast. But those are just crucial in any relationship. And that is commitment, communication, and conflict resolution. So if we can do those 3 things well, we can navigate just about anything in our relationship.
That's why they're foundational. There are 3 C's, and man, it all comes back to every podcast guest. We talk about those things in Kick-Ass Couples Nation, our coaching. We are focusing on how well are you demonstrating commitment, communication, conflict resolution, as Kim said, in your relationship. And we're going to get into that more, but then there's also trust and honesty, right? What else, Kim?
That's a big one. I know that's a one that really hits a lot of people's pressure points, is the trust and honesty, but there's also patience, and there's intimacy, which is one of my favorites. There's lasting love.
Intimacy is one of my favorites too.
I knew you were going to say that.
But it's in all its senses, guys. Most guys go, oh, intimacy, that's sex, right? It is, for sure. It's a great part of intimacy, but man, there's at least 5 other ways to do it. So it didn't mean to pause, but
No, what are you tell me, what are some others?
Well, patience is huge. Patience, you talked about that. Lasting love. And there's love like, hey, I'm attracted to that person, and it's physical and emotional, but lasting love is built on so much else. There's selflessness. Are you demonstrating selflessness in the relationship? Is it all about me and my needs or somebody else, right? There's unity. And how well are you unified in the relationship right now? What else, Kim?
Yeah, one of my personal favorites is appreciation. Expressing appreciation and gratitude out loud to your partner often is
That's
big.
Huge.
I mean, it is. I feel like a lot of men and women don't get enough of that, sadly.
Right. And then there's security. I think, if you feel safe in a relationship, and this is for a man and a woman, if you feel safe, then you can think about other things. But if you don't feel safe, that could be financially, it could be physically, it could be psychologically, right? If you don't have that security in the relationship, it's going to be hard to pay attention really to all those other things that we've been talking about.
Yeah, and then there's another one of my favorites, which is fun and humor. And that's a big one. And it's so funny because we really didn't have that on our list to start with when we really
No.
started cultivating this list, but it came to us over and over again from couples that we interviewed how important it is to implement fun and humor into your relationship.
Yeah.
And it's pivotal.
You got to have fun. You got to play together. And so I want to, Kim, what we're going to talk about today, and Kim and I think both believe this, and I hope you do too, is that anyone is capable and deserving of having a healthy, meaningful, fulfilling relationship. And we just ran through a list of 14 things. We're going to do a little deep dive right now into things, but I always like to start off with a quote to kind of frame our conversation. And this quote came from Dankar Kalatra, difficult name to pronounce, but still very profound. And they said, a healthy relationship will never require you to sacrifice your friends, your dreams, or your dignity. A healthy relationship will never require you to sacrifice your friends, your dreams, or your dignity. Those are things those should be non-negotiables, but it does require sacrifice. And I'm not saying relationships, healthy ones especially, don't require sacrifice, because they do. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So let's jump into our first key point, Kim. Our first key point is, you're in a healthy relationship when your partner prioritizes you above everyone and everything else in their lives. What do you think about that? Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like prioritization in your relationship should be one of the first things that you do. And I'm not saying at the expense of your own self and well-being. However, I am saying that you need to prioritize your partner above your own needs many times throughout the relationship. It's really important that you come first.
Yeah.
In all things for me. You are my number one human relationship, regardless of anything else that may be going on around me.
I think, a lot of people confuse, Kim, prioritization is the platform that we build Kick-Ass Couples Nation on. Everything we talk about, most issues, I think, in a relationship come down to people are not prioritizing their spouse above someone or something else. And I think, you just talked about it highly in the relationship. I think let's look at the concept of taking care of yourself, because we think if we're prioritizing our partner or our spouse in a relationship, that means that we're a doormat, right? That means we're always working to give them what they want, what they need. And, I think that if we look back at, the oxygen mask theory, we talk about this a lot too. You got to take care of yourself before you can take care of your partner. And that means respecting yourself. That means non-negotiable self-care and really investing in feeling good about who you are and what your needs are first, because then you're full and you're ready to meet their needs. And I think, Kim, I want to kind of talk about the wants and needs difference. And you're in a relationship, in a healthy relationship, how do you see wants versus needs? Is it my job to give you what you want?
Gosh, I feel like I have to figure out the things that I want, and I need to be able to express those wants to you, and then you can determine how you're going to feed those wants, right? Because we're all different. We all have different wants. We all have things that are important to us. And I need to be able to communicate those wants to you.
Sure.
Right? And then there are needs, and certain needs need to be met within the relationship. And so you are so great at really knowing what those needs are and implementing those needs in our relationship. So wants and needs, I think they come into play all throughout the relationship. And we have to understand our partner to know what the differences are.
Yeah. And I think, it would be a never ending job if the job description and to be a good partner was meet all of your partner's wants. We do our best, but their happiness is not based on our performance. It should be based within themselves. But I think as a partner, I want to encourage you to be your best, and I'm going to try to do my best to fulfill your needs, meaning what you need. You may want a different ring, you may want a different car,
Right.
you know, and so, I just got a question. Is it Curacao? Can you say I love you, Curacao? I don't know you, but I do have love for you, Curacao, and I hope you feel that. And I'm glad you're joining us here today. But back to the wants and needs thing, I need to make you the best you can be, and I need to work hard to fulfill your needs, not necessarily your wants. And that's a hard thing to. What else do you think gets in the way of prioritization or making it tough? Some of the things we should be doing, Kim, in that.
Well, I feel like there are a lot of things it's different for everyone, but there are a lot of things that are pulling us in different directions. We have work, and some people really allow that to take over their lives and to give that priority. We have families and children, and there are all kinds of things that can take over and really be disruptive to us prioritizing our relationship.
Right.
But we really have to stand firm and really make time for each other and committing to intentionally creating that space where we can have time to prioritize each other. It could be a walk.
Yeah.
It could be having dinner out somewhere, just the two of us. It could be sitting with a glass of wine out on the porch, but really having that time where we can communicate and share our life streams.
Love that. And so, Kim, you're in a healthy relationship when
that's right.
Your
You're doing
partner
those
is
things.
Prioritizing, setting aside time to be with you and have those shared experiences. That's great. Let's kind of move on to our second point, Kim. Key point 2, unconditional acceptance. Love is not based on needed, required changes, but accepting all the warts, the wrinkles, and as you are. If you're in a healthy relationship, that means your partner's not saying, I'll love you more, or I'll love you if you do something different. You change yourself. You become something they want you to be, as opposed to just focusing and working on being who you are right now. So,
yeah, you have to love them right where they are, right? I mean, I feel like you have to be able to meet them where they are and respect them where they are. Doesn't mean that you can't help them grow and encourage them and support them. But also you cannot tear them down and bring shame on them for doing something that they may feel like they need to do.
Right. And I think, again, a second point on that topic about loving you as you are, your spouse or partner's got to actively magnify your attributes and your uniqueness and express gratitude for them. And I think that comes on the heels of, I'm not trying to change you, but man, I'm going to find those unique things in you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to glorify and give gratitude and magnify, brag. One of the best things you can do for your spouse is to brag on them, find those qualities and magnify them in front of their friends, in front of their family, in front of your kids, because not only are you demonstrating what a healthy relationship looks like, but you are making investments into your partner when you express their goodness, because you're identifying it and
they're gonna hold their shoulders back, head up, and you're just gonna make them feel so appreciated and valued and important.
No doubt.
So doing those things are huge.
What else do we need to do, Kim, if we want to show our partner that we accept them and just as they are?
Well, I think that, we have to be willing to defend them, right? Right where they are as well. We have to be able to support them, defend them if they're doing something and maybe somebody else is kind of coming at them for, it could be your child, right? And you're taking sides with each other. And I feel like you come to my rescue with our children and you're ready to defend me. And that is huge. Being on the same team, that's another thing, right? We have to make sure we're on the same team with each other.
Yeah.
And so those are just some examples of things that are important.
And that wasn't something I was aware of initially in our relationship. I had to learn not to say, oh, my wife's got her own battles. She can fight them. She's a big girl. that's true. She wasn't inviting or expecting me to take over her challenges, but I had to learn. And she called me on it a couple of times, said, "Hey, I was down, in a drag out with our daughter, and you just sat there and you let her attack me and you didn't tell her what the truth was." And, so I had to learn how to do that. It doesn't mean own their battles, but it means let them know that you're on their side. And we do that for each other. And that's what a healthy relationship looks like, is when you defend them, whether it's a coworker, a family member. We've each stepped in front of in-laws and outlaws, right? And stood up for our partners in that way. And it's huge. And I think,
Yeah.
and Kim, another thing is we got to make sure that in addition to supporting and defending them, that we're not judging our partner based on their viewpoints, feelings, or emotions, or their frame of thinking. In other words, there's no grading. I'm not grading my partner on, well, they're crazy to think that, or I don't think that, so therefore I'm going to belittle them. So in a healthy relationship, right, you are trying to understand their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts, and where they are. You don't have to accept them, right, and agree with
Right.
them.
Well, I feel like that's accepting influence too, though.
Mm.
I feel like if I have a viewpoint and I want to express that to you, and you might think that I'm a little off, but you understanding where I'm coming from and really trying to dig in and ask questions about, well, what makes you think that? And why do you feel that way?
Right.
I think that's an important factor.
I would agree. So yeah, we're kind of getting beneath the surface. That comes back to communication, one of our pillars. And so good partners don't judge. They accept them as they are. They look for the good and they magnify it. And they're making sure that they are defending and protecting. Awesome, great activities. Let's move on to our next point. And that is your spouse filters decisions through the what is best for us filter, and a win for the marriage in the relationship. So in a healthy relationship, it's not I and you, but it's we. It's us. And in a healthy relationship, you're making decisions and thinking, saying, doing, and acting on, does this work for the relationship?
Yeah,
Is
it's
this going to
really
be a win?
it's based on the we, right? We have to make those decisions. It might be great for me, it might be something that's great for you. But it also at the same time might not be something that's great for both of us together. So we have to be willing to let that go.
Right.
We have to be willing to step away from that and say, you know what? It's going to benefit me, but it's not necessarily going to benefit our relationship. It's not necessarily going to actually be good for our relationship. So this doesn't need to happen.
Right. And I think it's kind of like there's no self-centeredness. There's no me first thinking. Great relationships focus on the we, as Kim was saying, and focus on the us.
Yeah.
What else is happening in that vein?
I feel like we cannot engage in bad, debilitating, harmful, negative behaviors.
Like,
I feel
give me
like
some examples.
that would be horrible. Well, an example would be, possibly going out with the guys and doing something, engaging girls while you're out with guys. It might not be, maybe you're dancing or hanging out. You're not doing anything wrong, but I also think that can be harmful to the relationship in the long run.
Right.
Pornography is another one thing that can be harmful to a relationship. If your husband's engaging in a lot of that, I feel like it takes away from the intimacy of your relationship. So that's another example of something that could actually be harmful to your relationship.
So what I hear you saying is like self-indulgent behavior. It's like, hey, it's good for
Exactly.
me, it works for me, it's what I want. Who cares what the effect is on the relationship? And
Yeah, it will have a long term. It could
Mhm.
have a real effect, negative effect on your relationship.
This is where in the intro we said doesn't mean there's no sacrifice, right? And there's got to be a constant willingness, Kim, to self-sacrifice yourself in favor of the relationship. And we talk about that win for the relationship. And so you're setting aside personal wants and desires if it's not the best for both people in the relationship. And that's mature. It takes maturity to do. People in great relationships do it. That's one of the things they do.
Yeah.
And there's a term I learned in a executive group called carefrontation, and not confrontation. We do have confrontations; those don't usually go well or end well and have negative. But carefrontation, and that's a term that means I'm lovingly and gently leading my spouse to what's best for them and what's best for the relationship. And it means that, yeah, when you've got the trust and the commitment in a relationship, Kim, if you're in a good relationship, you can say, hey, ooh, I don't think that's a good idea. That's not good for you, and it's certainly not good for me, and it's not good for us. And so you should be willing to carefront your partner if they're doing something, thinking something, engaged in an activity that is not good for them. And if it's not good for them, it's probably not good for the relationship. I think people shy away because, oh, I don't like conflict. I don't want to do anything to rock the boat. And if it's done with respect and love and care, you have every right to do that. So there's a right way. It's all in the approach and the intent, I think. I think you and I have done
Absolutely.
a great job of doing that with each other when we thought or said or acted on things that, ooh, don't feel good or right for one of us or both of us or the relationship.
Yeah, I would agree.
What else do you think about? Any other points you can think about on if we want to make sure things are winning for us that we got to be aware of in that
I
relationship?
think we've covered just about all of it.
Okay. Anything you can think of, Kim, that you'd like to share from your past that would, you know, help others think about how they're approaching and making sure they're focusing on the healthy habits and the life-giving habits, or help bring this home based on your experience?
Well, I definitely started out in a relationship with someone else, and I was married prior to our relationship, and sadly, that relationship was not a healthy relationship, and so coming off of that relationship and where there was mistrust and there was just poor communication. There was a lot of negative behavior coming
Mm-hmm.
off of that, and seeking counseling and really learning and growing and working on myself. I learned what I really needed. And so coming into our relationship, I felt like I had a better perspective and a better idea of what was really necessary to have in a relationship, really what to look for in someone else as
Sure.
well. And so um, after we got married, I was in a much better place, and I feel like we've had a great relationship. But I would say more recently in the last 5 years, we've really realized that it can be incredible, not just great. And if you're willing to put the work into having a terrific relationship, if you're willing to take all these pillars that we talked about, all 14 of them, and really implement those, break them down, and really work on them within your relationship, you can have an incredible relationship. And so, coming from a bad relationship and into this relationship, I've learned it's almost like learning a new language, right? We put in the work so that we can have an incredible life together.
Yeah, we have. And it's not always easy. It's not always roses and
It's
sunshine and
hard.
unicorns. That's for sure. We fail every day. And you know what? We got help in the journey too, Kim. And I think some people feel there used to be a stigmatism around, oh, you go to a counselor, you go to a therapist, you go to a coach, you're talking to your pastor or a spiritual advisor or a mentor. You're weak if you seek help. And I would tell you all, it's an exact opposite.
It
The
is.
strongest people that have the best relationships, that are most happy and fulfilled, know they need an outside viewpoint. They need
Yeah.
help. And it's healthy to do that when there's a third person or another viewpoint or opinion in the room. It means it's not you telling your spouse they're not something or they need to do something. It's someone else getting you to think a different way. We talk about this all the time. You change the oil in your car, you put new wiper blades on, new brake pads, you get the alignment checked when you've fallen out of alignment. So why wouldn't you take the steps to do those same things in your relationship?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's a therapist, sometimes it's a pastor, a mentor. Kim and I have used all those sources and continue to.
We have to invest in, cultivate, and take care of our relationship. Marriage enrichment is key, I think, to a successful, long-term, happy, joyful marriage. And listen, we talk about this all the time. we are all deserving of having
Sure.
the most joy-filled and just totally fulfilling, happy relationship.
We are. And if you're sitting there going, man, it sounds great, sounds nice, I wish I could do that, or I would love to get from A to B, but there's obstacles in the way. The whole reason, Kim and I, you can come check out the Kick-Ass Couples podcast. We have a weekly podcast. We talk to couples that are masters of relationships, and they share the trials, the tribulations, their failures, their success, and what they've done to stay together, to keep it real and keep it strong. And we interview those couples. We have special episodes there. And if you're not a podcast person, you can come to MatthewPHoffman.com and you can discover more about Kick-Ass Couples Nation. We have therapists, we have coaches, we have lots of people that look at us and follow us and do that. And we also have what's called a free Kick-Ass relationship assessment. And if you would like to talk about your relationship and learn more about what you can do to get those obstacles out of the way and navigate them and get back to thriving, we would love to talk to you. So you can jump in and do that. And if anybody has any questions that's on the call today, we'd love to answer them. Please feel free to throw it in the chat. If you are watching this in its recorded version, we would love for you to send us an email. You can direct message us either on Instagram, on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're on all those platforms with our material, and we would love to hear from you.
Yes, we care about you and your relationship, your marriage. And we want you to remember that happily ever after, it doesn't just happen, it's on purpose.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next Tuesday for our next Nooner. You guys have a great rest of the week.
Yay. 12:30 actually.